Schizophrenia and targeted individuals. Hello, in this video I'd like to discuss an extremely important topic into our survival. Schizophrenia in relation to targeted individuals. Schizophrenia being one of the main things being used against us. This video will be a guide on how you can be assessed to have schizophrenia. Targeting aligns with schizophrenia symptoms in order to mask itself. This is in collaboration with the mental health system as well as the policing system. In this video, I will detail how police, nurses, social workers, counselors, and doctors assess you to be mentally ill in hopes you can avoid this kind of backhanded treatment of being labeled as somebody you're not. In effort to reduce the rates of our discrediting, I will be listing symptoms of schizophrenia as well as how these occurrences we experience are designed to align with the diagnosis. Hiding the truth from the public eyes, these diagnoses are key to how people view individuals as us today. We are labeled with some kind of psychotic disorder usually. It is the current social climate we live in today. We see it on television to video games to the news, even music. From a young age, these mental health agendas are force-fed to us, allowing the target to be isolated by friends, family, co-workers, to complete strangers, as everybody carries these beliefs from a young age. The term schizophrenic, psychotic, or crazy is loosely thrown around these days. In effort to aid us from being mislabeled, I put together this information for all TIs to use to protect themselves, using correct behavior and practice regarding officials of the government. Okay, assessment and diagnosis. So you need a history of psychiatric hospital admittances. Dress code, grooming, alertness, and facial expression are considered. Behaviors are considered, such as eye contact, movements, and psychomotor activity are considered. Speech is considered, ranging from pressured speech to latent speech. Mood is assessed from euphemic, balanced mood, to dysphoric, low, irritable mood, to euphoric, mania, high mood. Mood is considered in relation to present topics. Is the mood congruent or incongruent with the situation? There is a range of mood considered, such as full, normal, or restricted, blunted, and flat. Blunted or flat. Mood lability is considered as well. A labile person swings from high to low mood, whereas a non-labile person has a more stable mood. Thought content is considered, referring to evidence of delusions, obsessions, compulsions, phobias, and suicidal or homicidal ideations. Thought form is considered. Normal is regarded as tight, logical, and linear, coherent, and goal-directed. Abnormal is considered to be not clear, organized, or coherent. Examples of thought form disorders are circumstantiality, long time to get to the point, many detours in conversation, tangentiality, moving away or never getting to the point, echolalia, repetition of others' words or phrases, loosening of associations, illogical connection between the thoughts or speech, thought blocking, neologisms, creation of new words otherwise, flight of ideas, and word salad. Perceptions are considered, such as hallucination reports, auditory or visual or olfactory, or other disturbances such as heightened perception and depersonalization, such as feeling one is in a dream. Cognition is considered, referring to attention, concentration, memory, and ability to think abstractly versus concretely. People are generally rated on their orientation to time, such as recollection of the year, day, and time. Place and person, who is in immediate proximity to the person. Memory will be assessed, such as a short-term to long-term. Short-term is tested by having a person repeat things given in beginning of conversation. Long-term is tested, such as recollection of childhood events in contrast to other sources such as family, friends, etc. Concentration ability will be assessed by asking the person's serial sevens from 100. Insight and judgment are considered, judgment being the ability to anticipate consequences for one's behavior to protect self from self and others. Insight being judged depending on the client's cooperation with the professional is defined as not having awareness of one's illness or situation. No insight is considered as not agreeing to one needs treatment, such as medications, for example. S. Assessment. S is assessed using tests for compliance. They will assess risks of S at regular intervals or as needs change. They will identify if S is a risk. They will address immediate safety needs. They will identify treatments and monitoring strategies to ensure one's safety. Risk factors considered include vulnerable populations, historical factors such as previous attempts or family history. Immediate risk factors include but are not limited to acute symptoms of mental illness such as command hallucinations, loss of a job, social standing or relationship, or anticipation of the same. Living alone or in isolation, recent S of loved ones or friends, rigid black and white thinking or perfectionism, recent discharge from hospitalization for psychiatric reasons, uses of substances that are depressive or disinhibition, such as alcohol, access to lethal means, including firearms and large quantities of medications. Current thinking is assessed, scanning for hopeless severity, frequent thoughts of S, etc. Okay. Risk of violence assessment. A risk assessment tool is utilized widely in Canada and elsewhere is the HCR20. This instrument contains 20 items, 10 historical, which include previous violence, 5 current or clinical, which include active symptoms, and 5 referring to risk management, which incorporate the environment and support system awaiting the individual. Post-discharge, or the individual post-discharge. HCR, or HCR20. Another risk assessment tool that has been developed in Canada is the Violence Risk Appraisal Guide, where more routinely risk screen tool may be used by staff and professionals who work alone or make home visits. Liability and risk management are kept in mind in the screening. The screening keeps the environment, other residents, animals, lighting, infestation, and so on in mind. The 2 assessments described now may be supplemented with other assessments of social functioning, including the status of social relationships regarding schoolwork and recreation, activities of daily living, including money management, self-care, and domestic roles, strengths and intact functions to support self-efficacy, the rate of change to these functions, cognitive and intellectual status, stressors, coping abilities, and beliefs about illness, developmental, academic, occupational, and social histories. Now, diagnosis procedures of schizophrenia. Hallucinations. People with schizophrenia might hear, see, smell, or feel things no one else does. As TIs, we are heavily gaslit on what we are perceiving by many of, if not all, the ones around us over time, thus simulating a hallucination. The types of hallucinations in schizophrenia include auditory. The person often hears voices in their head. They might be angry or urgent or demand that they do things. It can sound like one voice or many. They might whisper, murmur, or be angry and demanding. Visual. Someone might see lights, objects, people, or patterns. Often it's loved ones or friends who are no longer alive. They may also have trouble with depth perception and distance. As a targeted individual, we tend to be subject to weapons testing, usually weapons that cannot be proved to those who haven't been exposed to the same treatment. The fact that is easily written off as a psychotic hallucination. These weapons follow close guidelines to be inherent with psychotic symptoms and cause visual disturbances, headaches, damage to organs. A commonly referenced weapon is V2K, or voice to skull. where a signal is transmitted to an individual's brainwave pattern that can then transmit sounds ranging from banging to speaking and so on. The V2K perpetrators range from many attacks on the psyche of the individual to render them defenseless, unwilling to defend oneself, furthering their isolation and defenselessness. Olfactory and gustatory. This can include good and bad smells and tastes. Someone might believe they're being poisoned and refuse to eat. As a targeted individual, we are actually poisoned in our lives. Poisoning is rather an easy process for perpetrators and can easily be written off as a psychotic delusion. Our perpetrators use scents and perfumes as a tactics to harass us. Again, everyone around us begins to deny this over time, leaving the word of 1 against the word of 20. Tactile. This creates a feeling of things moving on your body like hands or insects. Some weapons employed by perpetrators, typically inserted in hospitals or jail systems, can lead to sensations in the human body such as pain, nerve pain in particular, to a touching sensation. This technology is largely classified information of our militaries, thus most people will not understand this and write it off as a tactile hallucination. Delusions. These are beliefs that seem strange to most people and are easy to prove wrong. The person affected might think someone is trying to control their brain through TVs or that the FBI is out to get them. They might believe there's someone else, like a famous actor or the president, or that they have superpowers. Types of delusions include persecutory delusions, the feeling someone is after you or that you're being stalked, hunted, framed, or tricked. Referential delusions, where a person believes that public forms of communication, like song lyrics or a gesture from a TV host, are a special message just for them. Somatic delusions. These center on the body. The person thinks they have a terrible illness or a bizarre health problem like worms under the skin or damage from cosmic rays. Erotomanic delusions. A person might be convinced that a celebrity is in love with them or that their partner is cheating, or that they might think they're not attracted to or pursuing them. Religious delusions. Someone might think they have a special relationship with a deity or that they're possessed by a demon. Grandiose delusions. They consider themselves a major figure on the world stage, like an entertainer or a politician. We as targeted individuals fall under persecutory delusions, referential delusions, somatic, and grandiose delusions. Obviously, we know we are being persecuted in a very severe and unforgiving way. We are followed everywhere we go with the same vehicles, doing the same behaviors constantly. A series of repetitive events are used against the individual in key traumatic moments to train our brains to recognize and identify when it's happening, as a form of brainwashing, otherwise referred to as sensitization, ensuring the fact that the individual will see it when nobody around them will. Simply put, our brains have been trained for abuse, where everyone else's hasn't. The sensitization process starts with a loud noise at a key traumatic event where the individual is reported to be in fear, stress, or pressure. This could be a loud bang from a neighboring unit or an engine outside at perfect timing. This process is repeated over the course of years. If we didn't notice them, they wouldn't bother us. So our brains are rewired into hypersensitivity where we will notice. Nobody else will understand, however, isolating us further. Confused thoughts and disorganized speech. People with schizophrenia can have a hard time organizing their thoughts. They might not be able to follow along when you talk to them. Instead, they might see like they're zoning out or distracted when they talk. Their words can come out jumbled and not make sense. Trouble concentrating, for example, someone might lose track on what's going on in a TV show they're watching. Movement disorders. Some people with schizophrenia can seem jumpy. They'll make the same movements over and over again, but sometimes might be perfectly still for hours at a stretch. Which experts call being catatonic, contrary to popular belief, people with the disease usually aren't violent. That's speaking for like catatonic people. Not much here to note here. Targeted informational content creators regarding classified topics sometimes will experience a disruption in speech. This is a disruption in the brain's thoughts in an effort to keep them silent. A minor one, really, however, it does happen. Some individuals are subjected to advanced Neuralink weapons testing, which over the course of years will lead to involuntary movements of the human body from an external source. Okay, this is invaluable information to have as a targeted individual. If you study the procedures on how we are largely misdiagnosed and discredited, we can gain an edge on being able to reasonably explain ourselves rather than exhibiting symptoms of psychosis. GangStalking is designed to look like mental illness. It is a key staple in the success of the whole thing. I would advise to not exhibit these symptoms or behaviors around officials of the government. It would be very bad for your credibility, as these people are usually perpetrators and will happily discredit and institutionalize you. As organized harassment is a government-funded operation exerted on citizens worldwide, why would you happily give them what they want to mislabel you? At the end of the day, we all know we aren't schizophrenic, and we definitely want people to help and believe us on what we're saying here. Staying away from these people with this information is key, being government officials. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned something from this. This is valuable information. I will be citing certain documents in the description, and thank you.